Welcome to your one-stop shop for quarterback strategy this summer. For you guys in your home leagues, redraft, best ball, whatever you guys are using this advice for, this should help you address the quarterback position. Who are the guys that we want to be taking early? Guys in the mid rounds, guys in the late rounds. What is the optimal way to play this position is the most important part of this entire video. So we got a lot to unpack here. As always, if you guys enjoy, leave a like, put a D in the subscribe button, and all that good stuff. Let's get into it. So I've been doing this series for a long time. Basically, we're going to break down who is the next league-winning quarterback. We're going to break down exactly who we are targeting, the quarterback strategy, and also everything in between for every position. We're starting with quarterback today. We're going to do tight ends next Monday, running backs the Monday after that, wide receivers the Monday after that. So the structure of this video will be this. First, we're going to briefly define what factors it took to be a 20-plus point per game quarterback, and there have been 67 of them over the last, 12, 11 seasons since 2013, including the 7 that did it last year. We'll go over them. I've been doing this video series for about 5 years now, so I'm going to really just skim over the process at this point. But if you are new, basically we're looking at volume-based factors like how many pass attempts did it take them, how many touchdowns through the air did it take them, how many rushing attempts, rushing touchdowns, and then we're also looking at situational factors like how good of an offense did they play for, the offensive line play, the talent around the quarterback, tendencies like how often they throw or run in the red zone, how often they throw the ball downfield. And then we're going to break down in order of ADP this year's crop of quarterbacks, quarterback 1 through 8, 9 through 16, so on and so forth. How do they stack up? And kind of give us a heat map for how we're going to address the quarterback position. So let's start with the volume-based factors for the 67 quarterbacks who have finished a calendar season with 20-plus points per game since 2013 with at least 12 games played. I'm sure a lot of you guys had these quarterbacks if you've been playing fantasy for a long time. Peyton Manning, 2013, Patrick Mahomes, 2018, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, pretty much every year they've been in the NFL. These are the dudes that have won people fantasy championships, and basically the averages we're taking from the volume factors are 34.5 pass attempts per game, 2.09 passing touchdowns per game, 5 rushing attempts, 0.25, 1 every 4 games they're scoring a rushing touchdown, paced out to a 17-game average. We're talking about 585 pass attempts, 35.47 passing touchdowns, 86 rushing attempts, and 4.69 rushing touchdowns as well. So those were the volume-based factors, and then we also have the situational-based factors. Now, I'm not going to show you guys literally every single situational factor that I graded, but Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, those guys are going to do it a little bit differently than a Josh Allen, than a Joe Burrow, than a Baker Mayfield, than a Patrick Mahomes, where they're going to be throwing the ball like crazy. The situational factors that I tested were offensive rank in points per game, offensive line rank in pass blocking, deep ball attempts per game, rank in quarterback rating for ESPN, red zone combined attempts, rushing and passing, ADP going into the season, which I think is really important to know that these quarterbacks were probably going high, as you can see there in fantasy drafts. Rank in neutral game script pace of play, so how fast are they running their offense, and then rank in pass offense DVOA, so basically a measure of how good were the weapons around them, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line. The screenshot of all 67 players is way too big, but basically these were the averages that we're going to use as the benchmarks to weight the crop of quarterbacks in 2025. This position, more than any other position, relies on who else is around you. The quarterback, of course, can influence how good your offense is, how good your pass defense or pass offense DVOA is. But the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight end talent, how good the play calling is, how good the offensive line is all going to contribute to that as well. Generally speaking, it's a pretty easy cocktail. You get a talented quarterback with good play calling, good offensive line, good weapons around them. They're generally going to be very good for fantasy, but I do think people forget sometimes that having fantasy quarterbacks who throw a lot in the red zone, push the ball downfield a lot through the air and deep attempts per game, run the ball in the red zone, that stuff matters a lot too, which is why I tested that stuff. And same goes for offensive game environment. How often are they throwing the ball? What is the pace of play and all that kind of stuff? And like I said, we do want to know where they were drafted in fantasy. Generally, these guys are going really, really high in fantasy drafts. Only 6 of 67 quarterbacks were drafted outside of the top 15 in ADP, including Baker Mayfield last year as the most recent example of one where a guy came from kind of out of nowhere and had a monster season. You guys can see the 7 league winners in 2024. We had a down QB year in 2023 with all those injuries, but last year we had 7 guys, ironically, all from the top 7 exact best offenses in the NFL. The quarterback of the best offense was a league-winning quarterback in fantasy. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Jared Goff. And again, of course, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen get there both passing and rushing, which is why they were the best in fantasy. Burrow, Mayfield, and Goff are going to get there primarily passing. And then Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts primarily from rushing. Typically, a league winner is going to get there one of three ways, whether it's elite rushing, elite passing, or a combination of both, which is what Josh Allen and Lamar do, which is why they're so friggin' dominant. So 100% of the time, too, it's either the quarterback has a dominant season because he's just so freaking talented, or it's a quarterback in an offense that has so many good weapons, so many good play calling tendencies, the spike in the efficiency, the offensive line, that can put them into the next stratosphere like we saw with Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. Those ones are harder to identify, but when you can identify them, you can get some great value. So now we're going to go through the top 32 quarterbacks in ADP, 8 at a time. And if you guys skipped ahead to this part, basically we're going through what are the best bets at each position based on all the factors we talked about already, score them based on all those factors, and basically create a heat map of the best pockets of the draft to attack with the quarterback position. We're going to go in order of underdog ADP, which is the best ADP out there because it's real money contests, paid drafts going back really to the time that the NFL draft happened. Sharpen up for your home leagues right now by signing up on Underdog using the promo code FSE. It's the perfect contest for new drafters. It is live right now, the Puppy 2. For just $5, you can compete, refine your strategy to beat your buddies in your home league this year, and potentially win $100K up top if you can take it down. And if you can take it down, you'll probably have a very, very fun fantasy football season. New customers using code FSE can get up to $1,000 in bonus funds with the link down below in the pinned comment. Tons of other contests too for any price point. If you guys are trying to get into $3 drafts, they had a $1 contest, the Little Dalmatian, that just closed. They have $500 and $1,000 contests if you guys got a big price point. You can definitely check out everything they have to offer. So let's start with quarterbacks 1 to 8 in ADP. These first 4 guys are going about rounds 3 to 4 in ADP. The next group going in the mid rounds, 5th, 6th, 7th round or so. So let's start with the top guys here. Josh Allen, who is currently going in the 3rd round. Only area he really loses points in this exercise, of course, is somebody who's already done this multiple times. He's got a very good chance of doing it again because the best predictor of future fantasy production is actually past fantasy production. As far as his team's point percentage participation, I don't know, there's not really a metric for it, but when the Bills are in the red zone, it's pretty much either Josh Allen throwing a touchdown or Josh Allen running a touchdown. Last year actually was the first real time that it wasn't. James Cook scores a lot of touchdowns. I think that'll probably regress in Josh Allen's favor. I don't think James Cook is going to score quite that many touchdowns this year. The only real area that you can poke holes into Josh Allen, and you could have said this last year and he was still great, is that he doesn't have an elite supporting cast around him. James Cook is good, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, that's fine, but there's no real alpha wide receiver 1 in this core. But Josh Allen is so good that he elevated everyone last year. But just keep in mind, it was his worst year fantasy production-wise over the last couple because they didn't throw the ball a ton and he didn't have as high of a passing ceiling as we've seen from him in years past. Without a Stephon Diggs there, he hasn't quite been the same last year as a passer. Of course, he's going to get there as a runner and he's going to do everything he can, but as a passer, he didn't quite get there. So he does have a little bit of a lower ceiling without a top end wide receiver. Lamar Jackson also going in the 3rd round. As always, Lamar Jackson is going to fall short in 2 major areas. First being pass volume, because generally speaking, the Ravens are not going to throw the ball like crazy unless they have a bunch of defensive injuries or whatever the case is. Usually they're going to be the type of team that is going to run the ball, play good defense, and Lamar is going to be probably the most efficient passing quarterback yet again for the 10th straight year in the NFL because he doesn't throw a whole lot of passes, but still manages to throw 30, 35, 40 touchdowns because he's just that efficient. And of course, we know he is a maniac on the ground and he can basically pop an elite 40 bomb at any point in time. The only thing you have to worry about with Lamar is Derrick Henry taking rushing touchdowns and touchdowns in general away from him, and also the pass volume, but it hasn't really mattered to this point in Lamar's career. One of the safest picks you can make in the 3rd round of a fantasy draft, him and Josh Allen alike. Jaden Daniels is a 4th rounder. He's kind of like mini Lamar Jackson, slightly more volume, more upside for rushing touchdowns, but not quite as good of a weapons core. He doesn't have quite the same level of talent around him, offensive line talent around him, play calling talent around him. Although they did get an upgrade at left tackle with Laramie Tunsil coming in, who's one of the better tackles in the league, and Deebo Samuel coming in as a number 2 wide receiver. Grabbing Jaden Daniels after getting a couple anchor running backs and wide receivers is definitely a viable deviation out of smashing the wide receiver and running back value. if he does slide to you. Personally, I would like to get him in the 5th round. If he falls to me there, I'm definitely more likely to take him. And that goes for Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts too, or Josh Allen and Lamar as well. I would like to get them ideally a round later than where they're going because, as you'll see in a little bit, I do like taking quarterbacks a lot later this year than I usually am. Jalen Hurts, the 4th rounder, somewhat of a down year in 2024, historically low pass volume as well. I don't think people realize how little the Philadelphia Eagles threw the ball. And also, too, if you guys remember, it's easy to forget because of the Super Bowl run, them winning the championship. For the last 5, 6, 7 games of the year, we were seriously wondering what was wrong with this offense as a passing unit. We heard, Lane Johnson call them constipated and all this kind of stuff. Saquon Barkley was the offense last year, and I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case this year. He ended so many drives so abruptly with 70-yard touchdowns. No quarterback has more rushing touchdown upside than Jalen Hurts because of the tush push. It is a lock that he scores over 10 touchdowns on the ground this year, probably over 15 in most cases. I believe we should see a lot more passing from the Eagles offense, which is why, as I'll get into the wide receiver position, I am so high on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this year. Big time lull the back half of the 2024 season, where basically they just Saquoned every single game. Saquon, play good defense, and we're on to the next game. We're going to win every single game by 15 points because we're the Philadelphia Eagles. That might not keep up. If they have some defensive injuries, Saquon's not as effective. They might have to throw the ball a little bit more. So I actually really, really love Jalen Hurts of these 4 guys as the best deviation away from hammering wide receivers and running backs in the 5th round specifically if he's there. These guys are legit hammers. If you get them, the shallower the league you're in, if you guys are in ESPN, base settings, half PPR, home league type of stuff, start 7, 2 running backs, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, and 1 tight end. These guys become better in that format because they are a bigger part of your starting lineup and they are bigger advantages over the rest of the quarterback position. Now we jump into Joe Burrow, late round 5 quarterback, the best passing projection in all of football, currently projected to lead the league in both attempts, passing yards, and passing touchdowns per Mike Clay. O-line and defense aren't very good, which is going to affect him a little bit, make him maybe a little bit inconsistent. But Chase, T. Higgins, ancillary guys like Chase Brown, Mike Gesicki, and all the other stuff that they got going on there is very ideal. So Joe Burrow, again, if you're going to deviate specifically for a pocket passing quarterback, it is definitely going to be Joe Burrow at the top of the list and Patrick Mahomes shortly behind him. We now jump to round about 7 where Patrick Mahomes goes. I would say he has the best weapons he's had in a while, assuming they all stay healthy, because I said that last year, and Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice missed most of the year. Xavier Worthy was a rookie, but all that stuff is kind of coming to fruition this season, where you have Rice coming off the injury, but he's healthy by all sounds of it. Worthy coming into his 2nd year. Marquise Brown on the field. His best friend Travis Kelce still out there, going to move the chains for them. Projected for the 2nd most pass attempts in football, which I think is an underrated part of the Chiefs offense. Extremely high pace of play. The ground game is kind of whatever. Isaiah Pacheco and some of the other guys can move the ball, but it will be a passing offense if I had to guess. One of the best to ever lace him up from a talent perspective. And who dominates the red zone more than Patrick Mahomes? He gets the majority of what goes on down there. They throw the ball in the red zone a ton. Even if you think Pacheco is going to have a bounce back season, I would expect the Chiefs to be very pass heavy in the red zone this season. So I actually really like Mahomes to have a bounce back after pretty suboptimal last 2 seasons. Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray close out this range as 8th round picks. Baker, not ideal that he will not have Tristan Wirfs for the first 4 games. That got announced a few days ago. He is, for my money, the best left tackle in football. I know I'm biased, but he's an absolute stud. He is tracking, though, Baker Mayfield, to have Chris Godwin back in time for week 1. Emeka Egbuka, the first-round rookie, coming in. Evans is Evans. We know what to expect. He's a guaranteed 1,010 every single year. J-Mac, Jalen McMillan from last year took a nice step forward. Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Cade Otton. This is a good weapons group. In totality, it might be the best in the league. When you look at the top 4 receivers, the starting tight end, the top 2 running backs, it's hard to imagine you got a better starting weapons core than the Buccaneers do. And even without Tristan Wirfs the first couple games, with Tristan Wirfs, they might be a top 3 to 5 offensive line. So without him, hopefully you get league average offensive line play or something around that. I actually expect the offensive pace of play and the pass volume to go up, because people probably don't know this about the Bucs, but last year we were actually really run heavy and we did not run the fastest paced offense with Liam Cohen, and our pass game coordinator, Josh Grizzard, who takes over as the primary play caller, called our plays on 3rd down last year, and we were number 1 in the NFL in converting 3rd down. So I expect us to throw the ball a little bit more. The efficiency on the ground will probably take a hit, and that might hurt the offense, but I would say Baker Mayfield is one of these guys that if he slides to you, he's a good value. But if he's at ADP, I'm probably fading him. Even as a fan of the Buccaneers, it's hard to justify taking him when he projects pretty similarly to guys going a lot later, where you're getting, the 2v2s of if I draft a running back or wide receiver where Baker goes, and then a quarterback later who projects similarly, I end up liking my teams a little bit more at that point in time. Kyler Murray closing out this tier actually goes a lot later in home league ADP. People are a little bit sick of Kyler Murray, even though he literally has not finished outside of the top 12 quarterbacks in any season of his entire career in points per game. I love him in round 9, round 10, where you're getting him in home league ADP because he runs, man. He doesn't run quite as much as he did in 2020 and 2021, but post-injury, he's now 3 years removed from that ACL tear. This is a big year for him. Year 2, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride in his prime. The offensive line had a lot of young pieces the last 2 years, and it's starting to take some shape after some growing pains. The coaching staff is settling in. Quietly, a lot of volume too, and a very high-paced offense. So I look at the Cardinals, and I think Kyler Murray is one of the best elite upside swings in round 8, 9, 10, where you're getting him amongst all positions. Like, you think of the guys you're drafting him around, you're starting to get into teams that are running backs that are not the starting running back for their team. You're starting to get into number 3 and number 4 wide receiver projections from a fantasy perspective. And the Cardinals also have the 7th easiest strength of schedule of any team in the NFL. I think it's a great year to go quarterback early, based purely, this is important, based purely on how the quarterbacks themselves project. I do not think it's a great year to go quarterback early because the position is so deep. So generally speaking, if you're in a shallow league and the potential hammers at quarterback can, bring you a championship because you're going to get good value on running backs and wide receivers later, then yes, draft an early quarterback. But if you're in a deeper league, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR, 2 running back, 1 tight end, maybe multiple other positions on there as well, you're probably best off fading the quarterback position into this territory and the territory and beyond. Quarterbacks 9 to 16, and these guys are going to go around 8 to 10, give or take, of your fantasy drafts when you guys do it, maybe a little bit later than that in home leagues. Bo Nix is the first guy off the board, and I said this last year, and I will say it again because I didn't even listen to my own advice, which I definitely am not going to do this year. Do not take the first falling quarterback value unless it's one of those top 4 guys who run and pass at an elite level. If you see Joe Burrow has fallen 3 picks of ADP, Baker Mayfield's fallen 3 picks of ADP, I would not use that as an indication to say this is a great value. It's probably a sign of things to come, where the quarterback position is going to slide like crazy all the way down the board for you. In our home league last year, quarterback slid like crazy. Jaden Daniels going around 11, all this kind of BS. You know what I did? I took the first value that fell to me, which was Anthony Richardson, which was a stupid ass decision. In the Flock League, same exact thing happened. I took the first guy that fell to me, Patrick Mahomes, in the 4th round, and I could have gotten Joe Burrow in like round 8. So again, I know those guys just missed and the other guys hit, but don't take the first falling value at quarterback because I think a lot of people, even your redraft casual buddies, are going to realize quarterback is quite deep this year. So unless you're getting great value, you look on the board and you're like, okay, I'm deciding between Lamar Jackson and Chuba Hubbard. I'm absolutely taking Lamar Jackson. There's no reason to take the first value that falls to you, again, unless it's one of those top 4 guys and you really are in a format that favors those hammer quarterbacks. Quarterback, patience dance this year. There are so many spots to pick that it'll be blatantly obvious to you when you should strike. Bo Nix, very good option at quarterback 9 here. He's going around the 8-9 turn. Dude, it is hard to see a young quarterback that stacks up this well. Volume, check. Very decent pass volume offense. Pace, check. One of the top 10, top 5 in the league. O-line, check. PFF ranked them as the number 2 offensive line in football coming into the year. Coaching and scheme, we trust Sean Payton. Has he done it? I mean, he was QB 8 in points per game as a rookie last year, and he was literally the first guy who was not a 20-point per game scorer at 19.4. He was just behind Jared Goff as the quarterback 8 in points per game. Does he throw deep? Well, he was 2nd in deep attempts per game last year. The only issue is weapons. I mean, he runs the football too. He runs the ball in the red zone. He threw the ball in the red zone. The only issue is that he doesn't have the weapon score of some of the other quarterbacks around the league. Like if he was the 49ers quarterback, for example, or the Buccaneers quarterback, he'd probably be going a lot higher. But they did add some pieces, Evan Ingram at tight end, RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins at running back, the 2nd round pick, and also a top 20 fantasy running back in Dobbins from last year. Pat Bryant, who they drafted in the 3rd round at wide receiver, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, all young players that they had from last year. Another year of experience, another year of development in the system. Bo Nix is a huge target of mine, man, because where he goes off the board is where the running backs and wide receivers start to dry up a little bit. So I don't mind in shallower leagues fading the Bakers and the Mahomes and the Burrows in favor of Bo Nix, because you're going to like your team probably a lot more with whatever running back or wide receiver you got in round 5 or 6 where those guys go, and then Bo Nix in round 8 or round 9. You're probably going to like the 2v2 a little bit better there. So QB10, Justin Fields is my first fade, I would say. Yes, he runs. Yes, he has monster high-end best ball upside, and that's probably why he's QB10 on Underdog. But it's the Jets, man. The weapons group is very shallow. If Garrett goes down, if Brees goes down, this team is probably screwed, and they're not going to score a lot of points. So that's the one issue I have with Justin Fields. And it's a new scheme. It's a new play caller, a first-time play caller, a new coach. There's a lot of moving parts here. The offensive line's decent, but it's not excellent. I would be worried if he was my QB1, specifically in best ball, in a QB2 build, like a 2-quarterback build. I would need him in 3-quarterback builds in best ball, and even in home leagues, I would want to pair him with somebody safer. And honestly, I just think there's better swings to take. Him and Kyler are basically the same price, and Kyler projects way better to me. And I would rather swing on like the second-year quarterbacks like May and Caleb Williams, who I'll talk about in a second, than I would on Justin Fields, because those guys go later in drafts on Underdog than Justin Fields goes. QB 11 for me is Brock Purdy. There's also there's a couple guys in this range that I could kind of group together. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. They all have very similar things in common. All of them play for good teams. All of them have good weapons groups. All of them have been productive in the past, top 12 quarterbacks as recently as either of the last 2 years. Goff was a top 7 quarterback last year. Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott were top 8 quarterbacks the year before that. The only difference really is the amount of rushing that you're getting out of these guys. Brock Purdy quietly had 323 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns and 4.4 carries per game last year. Was that because CMC was out? I'm not exactly sure, but he did show a little bit more rushing production, which is why I have him ranked first out of this group in my rankings, and also he goes the highest on Underdog of this group as well. With Dak Prescott, again, George Pickens coming in, already has CeeDee Lamb, already has Jake Ferguson. They won't be able to run the ball with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, so the pass volume and the pace should be there. He's a great option. Jared Goff, quarterback 15 in ADP. He was top 5 in MVP voting last year. The only worry with him is that he has no more Ben Johnson to scheme up plays as the offensive coordinator. Frank Ragnow, the center, that could be a problem for the offensive line. He was one of the best in the league, and the quarterback-center connection is very important as an offense. I expect this offense to probably run the ball quite a bit this year, especially given that Gibbs and David Montgomery are as good as they are. So those 3 guys are like the safe options in this territory. Then you have the upside swings. Quarterback 12, Caleb Williams, quarterback 14, Drake May, and quarterback 16, JJ McCarthy. With Caleb Williams, legit elite upside. Not just from he was the first overall pick in the draft kind of thing, but 5 carries per game as a rusher is great volume on the ground. Ben Johnson goes from Detroit to Chicago, where he architected one of the best offenses in the league for the last couple of years. Odunze in year 2, DJ Moore still there, top 10 pick at tight end, Colston Loveland. They still have Cole Kmet. Luther Burden comes in as the number 3 wide receiver, who was a second-round pick who could have went in the first round, as an elite of an upside swing as you can possibly get because of what's around him and because of what he should be able to do from a talent perspective, given his prospect profile and all that kind of stuff. The coaching, the offensive line upgrades too. They added all 3 new interior offensive line starters who have all been like Pro Bowl caliber players. So this is a really good time to swing on Caleb Williams. Quarterback 14 is Drake May. Basically the same case as Caleb, only the projection is worse from a weapons and surrounding talent standpoint. But the QB himself, Drake May, actually had the better rookie season. And when you factor in what he's got upgraded, he has both of his offensive tackles upgraded. Morgan Moses from the Jets comes in to play right tackle. Will Campbell, they draft 4th overall in the draft to take the left tackle spot. Big upgrade over last year. Their tackles were horrible. Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams come in at wide receiver. Diggs a multi-time wide receiver 1, but coming off of an injury. Kyle Williams, an exciting 3rd-round wide receiver. Big upgrade over what they had at wide receiver last year. Trevion Henderson at running back, elite running back prospect. Best skill set really is as a pass catcher as well, which Drake May gets those points. And by the way, when Drake May was starting games last year, he was a quarterback 1 in points per game. He was a usable fantasy quarterback in a terrible situation last year. With what he was dealing with, he really doesn't have any excuse to not be a lot better than what he was a calendar year ago. JJ McCarthy, very easy to see why he's elevated, because I would say as a player, I'm actually worried about JJ McCarthy because minimal reps, coming off of a serious injury, not a special prospect by any means. That all kind of hurts his rushing. but look at what he has around him. How do you not succeed in this situation? Sam Darnold threw 35 touchdowns last year in this offense. Even if the bar is Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy should be able to get there by mid-season, by the end of the season. So when you're throwing a Jefferson, Addison, and now a healthy TJ Hawkinson with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason in the backfield, the top 10 offensive line, and Kevin O'Connell calling it up for you, it's very hard not to succeed. So JJ McCarthy, if you fail this year, it is all on you, brother. How do you not love this quarterback range? This is what I keep saying about the quarterbacks 1 to 8. As much as they project so well individually, how do you not go, oh my God, I can get Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, all these upside swings like Fields and May and Caleb and JJ McCarthy in the 10th round when there's no running backs on the board, when there's no wide receivers on the board? Like, think of who you're deciding between. When you are picking some of these guys, you're going, do I want Dak Prescott, a multi-time QB1, or do I want Zach Charbonnet, who's not even a starting running back for his team and who's basically a handcuff? Because that's the decision point at that point. When you're drafting Lamar Jackson, you're deciding between Lamar Jackson and Breece Hall, who could be an RB1 this year. Like, it's a very different decision that you have to go through. So that's why I'm generally fading the quarterback position this year, and I'll talk about more of my strategy later. Quarterback 17 to 24, we can rattle through Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, Michael Penix, Tua Tagovailoa, Bryce Young, and Matthew Stafford. Justin Herbert, volume is somewhat of a question mark, although the projections actually have him as the 10th most pass attempts in the league, according to Mike Clay. Herbert's a beast, though. We all know how good he is. The O-line could be excellent. Offense itself has improved weapons around Justin Herbert to go along with Ladd, who obviously is a stud. QJ, who actually had a nice step forward last year. They bring in Trey Harris in the second round. They bring back Mike Williams to kind of curb the development of Trey Harris because I think they're going to play the same role. They bring in a Rondé Gadsden in the 5th round, who I thought should have been a 2nd or a 3rd round tight end. And they also go out and get a 1st round running back in Amarian Hampton and a multi-time RB1 finisher in Najee Harris, the backup. I've been anti-Herbert, but I do think I have to move him up a little bit because he projects quite well. Jordan Love, man, that's a lot of green. I think he's my favorite quarterback in this entire territory. The offense projects to be excellent. Great coaching, great O-line, multiple players deep at the weapons group, whether it's the tight end Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, whether it's Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, who they took in the 1st round, Romeo Doubs, and other receivers that they have there. More importantly, Jordan Love was not healthy last year. Jordan Love is healthy now, and when he was last healthy, he was a top 6 quarterback in fantasy in 2023. And he's a gunslinger who likes to throw the ball downfield and throw the ball in the red zone, which we love from a fantasy perspective, even if it leads to a little bit more interception. So Jordan Love, I have him ranked ahead of Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott because, frankly, I think he projects just as good as those guys and probably has a higher ceiling for what he can do on a season-long basis and as a runner to some degree over Dak as well. Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen comes in as the head coach and play caller. We saw what he did for Baker Mayfield last year. I do think, and this is why I'm not quite as high on Trevor Lawrence as some other people seem to be from a redraft standpoint, I think it's going to take some time for this offense to gel because BTJ is a young player. Trevor Lawrence, missed the end of the season last year, has dealt with injuries. I think this offense is going to take some time to gel. Travis Hunter is going to be learning 2 positions at the beginning of the year. He comes in as the number 2 wide receiver, which probably gives BTJ and Hunter the best young duo of wide receivers in the league. Volume and pace probably going down from Doug Peterson, who had these guys running top 10 pass volume, top 10 pace of play. Liam Cohen did not have the Buccaneers running like that. They were, more back end 19th, I think, in pass volume, 22nd or something in pace of play. I think the volume might take a little bit of a hit, and Trevor Lawrence is a little bit riskier as a result, but I do think he can run a little bit, big arm, runs in the red zone, that kind of stuff. He can be a solid quarterback 1 if you fade the position entirely. CJ Stroud, I'm kind of fading at cost right now because, to be honest with you, among the quarterbacks in this group, he just has more red flags than the other guys do because he doesn't run. So he needs to have a great passing season, and his O-line is the worst in football. I don't even think it's close. Every major outlet that ranks offensive lines would put the Texans number 32, and that will affect the offense because the running backs are old. I don't think Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and Woody Marks are going to create a shit ton on their own. They're going to need good blocking to do it. And if they can't run the ball effectively, they're not going to be a great offense, even if CJ Stroud gets back to how he played as a rookie. Nico's a stud, but if they if they drop back and they don't have time to throw the ball to Nico Collins, then that's going to disrupt their offense. Christian Kirk is fine. Jalen Nolan, Jaden Higgins, the two receivers they drafted in round 3 and round 2 respectively, are going to upgrade the floor of the offense a little bit. But I just don't think Stroud is really worth it, given that Goff, Purdy, Dak, and such are just slightly better projections. And also, they're not that much more expensive. And the guys that I just talked about with Lawrence, with Love, and with some of the other dudes there, Justin Herbert, are basically the same price as Stroud. And again, project better than him. So I'm not really drafting a whole lot of CJ right now. Michael Penix, the pass volume should be high. He slings the ball downfield a lot. The O-line is great. You have a couple of really, really high-end weapons around you with Bijan, with Drake London. Mooney's a good number 2. Maybe Kyle Pitts will decide to do something for once in his career. The pace is great. The weapons are good. If he fails, it's probably all his fault. I wouldn't really be comfortable with him as my quarterback 1 if I was starting in a redraft league, but as a best ball QB 2 or 3, I think he's definitely fine. Tua Tagovailoa, as long as he's healthy, he's going to smash his ADP. Health is the only reason he's not going higher. Let's be perfectly clear here, because with Tua Tagovailoa, this offensive scheme is a big advantage over a lot of the NFL. How they drop a play action shot, how quick he gets the ball out of his hands. Think about the yards after catch ability of the top 3 receivers on the team: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane out of the backfield. They bring in Darren Waller to maybe supplement some of the production that they're going to lose from Jonnu Smith. And again, Tyreek and Waddle didn't seem healthy last year, and Tua definitely wasn't healthy last year. So if QB 22 is the price tag for a guy who can be legitimately a quarterback 2 build, no problem on a best ball team, or if you wanted to draft, let's say, a Caleb Williams early in your draft for redraft and backfill with a Tua Tagovailoa so that maybe you can, use Tua early in the season to see how Caleb's acclimating, that is a great strategy from a redraft standpoint as well. Bryce Young, I don't think people realize how good he was down the stretch. QB 7 in points per game, week 12 onward, with 21.6 points per game during that stretch. They had a top 10 receiver in the draft in Tet McMillan. And now you go from Adam Thielen, Leggett, and Coker being your top 3 receivers to now they're your 2nd through 4th receiver, which is probably where they should be, with Tet McMillan being the alpha. Good offensive line, good system, 2nd year in the system. We saw that system take some time to gel, specifically for Bryce, who had to get benched for that to happen. And the other wide receivers and tight ends, Coker was a rookie last year, Leggett was a rookie, Jatavian Sanders was a rookie. Those guys all getting more experience. That's all going to help Bryce Young. So I do think, again, one of these late upside swings that you can go, and especially in best ball, I really, really love Bryce, because I do think he could be a little bit inconsistent given that it's a young team. Matty Stafford at QB 24 is just straight up mispriced, man. I have him at quarterback 15 in my rankings, and quarterback 24 would indicate that, okay, Matthew Stafford probably going to give you some weeks here and there. Dog, what am I missing here? Top 10 NFL quarterback, period. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Top 12 scoring offense projection. Top 12 easiest strength of schedule projection. They're expected to win like 10 games. He has 2 top 10 receivers in the league, top 15 receivers in the league with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams to throw to. I like the ancillary weapons as well with Kyron and the other running backs, with Terrence Ferguson, the tight end who they drafted. Some of those Tutu Atwell types can give you big plays and that kind of thing. Top 15 pass rate, top 10 pace of play. I don't think there's anything wrong with Matthew Stafford at quarterback 24. If, again, you wanted to draft Caleb Williams, Drake May, Justin Fields, somebody like that as your QB1 in your home league, and then in the 15th round, take Matthew Stafford and just start Stafford for the first couple games, see what you have there, because he's projected for the 9th most attempts in the league, the 4th most yards in the league, and the 6th most touchdowns in the league. And it would not shock me at all if what Jared Goff did last year for the Lions, 20 point per game guy on the efficiency side of things, gets a lot of red zone attempts and all that kind of stuff, is exactly what Matthew Stafford does in 2025. So I really like him as an excellent value if you fade the quarterback position entirely, if you're going to stream the position, that kind of thing, or just as a QB 2 or 3 in best ball. Quarterbacks 25 through 32, this is where we really start to see the fall off. You'll definitely want a quarterback by now in a redraft league, and you probably only want these guys as QB 3s in best ball. The only thing that I find interesting to me is Geno Smith, Cam Ward, and maybe whoever starts for the Colts. In best ball, Geno and Darnold and Rodgers are probably not going to lose their jobs, which makes them appealing because you can't stream. In managed leagues, they're not really interesting because there's going to be better options out there. Maybe if Geno and the Raiders really take a step up, he can become like an every week back-end starting QB1. I think that's possible, but I'm probably not banking on that. DJ and Richardson are very interesting to me, whoever starts for the Colts, because both guys run. Both guys have a great weapons core, obviously, because they play for the same team, and the coaching staff is very strong. I think they're a good play calling team. When Anthony Richardson wasn't starting last year, Gardner Minshew in 2023, and Joe Flacco in 2024. When you combine the pass attempts that they were allowed to throw when it wasn't Richardson out there, it was over 600 a season. So Daniel Jones, if he's going to start, I think people would underestimate how much volume could be there for Pittman, for Downs, for a Warren, for all the weapons in this offense. And I do think this could be actually a really pass-heavy offense like we saw from the Gardner Minshew Colts in 2023. So I'm picking, DJ and Richardson, both. Like, not even just DJ. DJ is definitely my preference. But when you think about a 17th, 18th round best ball pick, you're just looking for 2 or 3 good games out of those guys. And if you have 2 good quarterbacks already, you can tack on one of these 2 and you'll get 2 or 3 good games, even if they only start 9 games total, each of them. If they split reps down the middle throughout the entire season, you're going to get a couple of good weeks at ADP, and that's basically what you're hoping for out of a 16th round running back or a 17th round wide receiver or whatever. So I actually really like those guys from a best ball standpoint. Redraft wise, they're probably only waiver wire darlings. So let's take a look at the scorecard, and I would say, to answer the question posed at the beginning of this video and in the title of this video, who is the next league winning quarterback? It's probably those guys in green, whether it's one of the top guys, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, or one of those Colts quarterbacks, assuming they take the hold of that job. If I had to pick one player who will be on the thumbnail of this video, who I would think who is the next league winning quarterback, it is this guy. It is probably going to be Jordan Love, given all the combination of factors that he has working with him, whether it's the weapons, whether it's the offense, the play calling, and the fact that he's already been very, very productive before. But pretty much anybody in green could be your answer for this, at least in my opinion. Even some of the guys in yellow are pretty close. I mean, you see where Lawrence is just outside of being in green over 20. Justin Herbert is just outside of being in green over 20. Caleb and Drake May could definitely be league-winning quarterbacks. Could be Jared Goff yet again. Like, there is so many, like that QB1 to 24, they're all pretty much guys that I'm targeting outside of Justin Fields and CJ Stroud at cost. So the answer to the question is probably Jordan Love for me, but there's a lot of guys I could have said that about. At the end of this video, of course, we talked through our quarterback strategy. I've made reference through it the entire time, so you probably know where I'm going with this, but this is absolutely the most important part of this entire video, and you want to apply this to your specific league. In my specific league, which is why I'm doing all of this, like the entire channel in general was created so we could share our findings with you guys. My specific league kind of lets quarterbacks fall down the board, which is why I'm kind of taking the approach of I'm going to let my quarterback come to me. I'm not going to be super aggressive grabbing a quarterback. If you guys play in leagues where quarterback goes high, then Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are going to be really, really valuable. Those dual threat hammer quarterbacks are going to cause your league mates to panic and start a QB run, and they're going to be drafting way worse quarterback projections than you have on your team. So keep that in mind. If that is not your league market and your league market's more like mine, where people are starting to realize late round quarterback is definitely back, late round quarterback is the play this year, then you should punt the quarterback position until the 9th, 11th, 12th round, whenever you get it, because you want to fill out your wide receiver, running back, and probably tight end position as well. If someone falls to you 3 or 4 picks after ADP, don't take the first ADP faller. If there's guys falling to you constantly, it's a good sign of things to come. And again, match up who's on the board wide receiver and running back wise with the quarterback that fell to you. Usually you're still going to like the running back and wide receiver projections later when you go, okay, I'm in the 6th round. Baker Mayfield's on the board, but I could take Chris Olave right here. Is Chris Olave plus Brock Purdy later going to outweigh Baker Mayfield here? The answer is probably yes, given that you're probably looking at Rashad Bateman as the best receiver when Brock Purdy is on the board. So that's kind of the 2v2 game that you want to be playing here. In redraft leagues that are bog standard home leagues, those elite guys are going to matter, but for the most part, fading the quarterback position is probably the play. If you play in a league that's 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 or 2 flexes, half PPR or standard especially, there's a good chance the quarterback position is going to be elevated and get pushed up the board. You're going to see Allen go at the back of the 2nd round. You're going to see Lamar go at the back of the 2nd round, early 3rd round. That's when you know the quarterback market's going to be heavy and you can't quite wait as long, and you might want to get one earlier. But if you're in leagues like mine, 3 wide receivers, full PPR, 1 or 2 flexes, all that kind of stuff, what I'm going to do is play the format in my home league. That is the whole point of this video. Take 2 swings on the position unless you get supreme value. Again, I've been making reference to it this entire video. Take Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, maybe a hammer quarterback up top. If you think you can get an elite upside quarterback one like that, maybe you only draft 1 if your league mates are not drafting a lot of quarterbacks. In my league, people draft 2 quarterbacks a lot. So what I like to do is I'll take, let's say, Jordan Love in the 9th round or the 10th round. and I'll swing back around in round 13 and grab JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix or Bryce Young or Drake May or something, whoever falls to me who gives me a little bit more upside. Start your guy up top, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott for the first few weeks. Stream matchups, and by week 2 to 3, you should know what you have in both quarterbacks, whether they're going to be every week starters for you or whether they're going to just be kind of stream matchups type of guys for you. And who knows, maybe you hit on both guys and you have a trade chip and you can go upgrade from Jordan Love to get up to a underperforming Joe Burrow and underperforming Patrick Mahomes and underperforming Jaden Daniels or something like that. So the late round quarterback is so freaking back. It's insane. I'd literally be fine if you guys were in a home league that doesn't value quarterbacks, walking out of my draft in round 14 with Matthew Stafford and Cam Ward to get myself that 2 shots for upside kind of thing. And I'm going to just stream the position worst case scenario and have a loaded wide receiver, running back, and tight end position. In best ball, draft 2 guys in that Bo Nix to Matthew Stafford honeypot. If you guys are playing best ball underdog drafts, maybe tack on a third if you want a Geno or a Colts quarterback or something like that. Super flex players, we're going to have a whole video dedicated to you. So quarterback individual micro takes, this definitely would have helped you, but we will have a super flex, number 1 super flex strategy coming in the next couple of weeks, probably early August for you there. If you guys enjoyed this video, hammer the like button. I am literally exposing my strategy to my league mates. And I promise you, if any of my league mates are listening to this, comment down below, because I bet you at least 2 or 3 of them are, if not 6, 7, 8 of them who watch the channel regularly. Don't let that be in vain for you guys. I'm doing this for you. I'm sacrificing my own chances to win my league so that you guys can beat your league mates. And subscribe if you're new. Tune in every Monday. We're going to be doing predicting the next league winning tight end next week. After that, running back. After that, wide receiver, because we want to get the full picture. What's the honeypot at each position on the board? And based on that, how do you appropriately structure your draft strategy? Because if late round quarterback is viable, then you go heavier on running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends earlier. We're going to find the pockets at every position what is kind of best in round 1 to take, what is best in round 2 to take, what is best in round 3 to take. And of course, that culminates in the number 1 draft strategy video plus a PPR mock draft that I do every August 11th. This is the first step of that video. We are officially here, fellas. It is the redraft season. Players are reporting to camp, the rookies, I believe, tomorrow. So if you guys are wondering when does training camp start, all that kind of stuff, tomorrow the training camp rookies are going to report. By next week, the tight end video that I do, we're going to have pretty much every NFL team going into training camp with the veterans there as well. So we are getting into it, fellas. This is the redraft season. I'm very excited for it. Stay tuned for all the content that we're going to have posted around here. But with that being said, peace out. I'll talk to you soon.